Hello, friends. Welcome to this initial real first episode of the Kingsman and the CyBUr Guy podcast. I am your host, retired FBI supervisory special agent and co-founder and director of cyber operations for Five Eyes Limited, Darren Mott. With me, my co-founder and director of threat operations, Michael McQuaid. Mike, welcome back to this. Well, welcome to this first real true episode of the Kingsman and the CyBUr Guy podcast.
The way you opened that up, it sounded like we were getting a divorce, like, you know, welcome into it as if like we're not actually together, but we are together, Darren.
Only separated by one big ass ocean. So there is
that. Absolutely. All
right. So first of all, we want to talk about kind of the format of how this podcast will work going forward. So we're going to try to do this every week, Thursdays at 11. It'll be live on LinkedIn. This episode is not live because I was on vacation most of the week. So we're actually recording this on a Friday, both audio and video. So you'll have both options to listen to or watch, however you prefer. So this will be put up on YouTube later in the day or sometime over the weekend. But it'll be, if you're watching it, it clearly is up and you're able to see it. So this particular podcast has two aspects. The first and third week of every month is focused on cybersecurity, physical threats, and threat intelligence regarding logistics and supply chain companies or organizations. Though our business focuses on those in the UK, the information here is important for companies regardless of where you exist, because bad actors are targeting the logistics community for a variety of reasons, which we'll talk about over the course of the weeks as we talk about this. The other 2 weeks, weeks 2 and 4, we'll bring in different people to talk about different things, so largely around cybersecurity and physical security aspects. They may be people that have been victimized by something. They may be people that bring a specific skill to that particular area. And that's kind of how we're looking to format this podcast as we figure out how to push it forward going forward. Got that about right, Mike?
Bang on the button.
All right. So the first thing we want to do, we're going to have three sections to this. One is, the first section is our news section. We'll talk about some news-oriented article that's important to us, that we think is important. The so what to why that news article or those news articles are important and why you should care. And then at the end, we're going to talk about epic stories, basically the stuff that we did that brought us together and is forming the background to this particular podcast and all the things that we do in our business and stuff like that. There won't be a lot of pitch slapping here for the business, although we'll probably mention it here and there. But this particular podcast is a production of Five Eyes Limited. So there is that in the background, but we're not going to sit here and talk about that all the time, every day, unless Mike decides to do so, because he'll change his mind here and there, and we go from there. So let's get to the news. I was going to try to have a funky little news ticker going, but I don't really have that. So the article we want to talk about here, and this is, if you've not paid attention, this will be new to you. If you have paid attention to cybersecurity and specifically in logistics, this story will not be a shocker to you. But this has to do with a company called the Knights of Olde, which was a 158-year-old logistics company, very large company in the UK, and they went out of business because of a cyber attack. And this article kind of goes into detail on how that happened. And so I'm going to read a little bit of it, and then Mike and I kind of talk about it and why is it important and what can you learn from this? And if you're a company, what should you learn from this? And this, even though, again, is a logistics company, this could happen to any company. 60% of companies that get compromised through a data breach or a cyber attack go out of business within 6 months. So keep that in mind. But anyway, 1Password is believed to have been all it took for a ransomware gang to destroy a 158-year-old company and put 700 people out of work. Now, I should notice this is from the BBC. Richard Bilton is reporting this. I want to give him attribution because I'm reading his article. KNP, also known as Knights of Olde, a North Hampshire transport company. I mispronounced that, didn't I, Mike? It's North Hampshire, right? Or do you even know? You're Scottish. Yep. What do you know?
Yep.
Yeah. So is one of tens of thousands of UK businesses that have been hit by cyber attacks. Big names such as M&S, Co-op, and Harrods have all been attacked in recent months. The chief executive of Co-op confirmed last week that all 6.5 million of its members had their data stolen. So if you are in the UK and you are a Co-op, what's even their member, whatever that means, like a loyalty membership, whatever data you gave to co-op, bad guys are now having will be use that to exploit your information to commit fraud against you. So you've got that going for you, which is something to look forward to. But in KNP's case, it's thought the hackers managed to gain entry to the computer system by guessing an employee's password, after which they encrypted the company's data and locked its internal systems. KNP Director Paul Abbott says he hasn't told the employee that their compromised password more likely led to the destruction of the company. Would you want to know if it was you, he asks? We need organizations to take steps to secure their systems, to secure their businesses, said Richard Horn, CEO of the National Cybersecurity Center, where Panorama has been given exclusive access to the team battling international ransomware gangs. I don't know what Panorama is. Do you know what Panorama is? Oh, I saw BBC Panorama. I guess is that a... I don't live in the BBC. I don't watch the BBC. Is that a TV show? What is that?
Yeah, so BBC Panoramas are an investigation team part of the BBC. So they'll investigate and explore talking points within the world. It's not just UK based; it could be worldwide, and then they investigate it.
Okay. In 2023, KNP was running 500 lorries. Is that a truck? Is that a lorry? What's a lorry?
I'm going to say it's a truck. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Most under the brand name Knights of Olde. The company said its IT complied with industry standards and had taken out insurance against a cyber attack. Let's keep those two particular statements in mind for later as we're discussing this. But a gang of hackers known as Akira got into the systems, leaving staff unable to access any of the data needed to run the business. The only way to get the data back, said the hackers, was to pay. And if you're reading this, it means this is a ransom note part. If you're reading this, it means the internal infrastructure of your company is fully or partially dead. Let's keep all the tears and resentment to ourselves and try to build a constructive dialogue. Wasn't that nice? The hackers didn't name a price, but a specialist ransomware negotiation firm estimated the sum could be as much as £5 million. KNP did not have that kind of money. In the end, all the data was lost and the company went under. And so on and so on. And there's more to this article if you want to take a look at it. But basically, the problem means... Now, let me go back here. So Mike, let me ask you this question. Do you think that the IT group of KNP complied with industry standards?
Well, that's difficult to answer. It's subjective, right? Because unless we investigate ourselves, that's the only way you're going to find out. However, if I had to assess it and give a dissemination, I'm going to say it's highly unlikely.
Right.
Also, it's highly likely that they were using an MSP. They didn't have an internal IT team.
That's a good point. And what standards were they complying to? That's my question. Because are there cybersecurity standards in the UK that companies need to maintain that are mandated to do?
No, not by law. No, there's not. Well, you got the cybersecurity resilience bill that's got to be coming out, but there's no compliance framework that it's like by law you have to do this.
Right. So whatever standards they were complying with were their own internal standards that they believed would work, right? If for nothing else.
Effectively, yes. But then again, who's advising them on this?
That's true. Good point. Good point. And it said they had cyber insurance. So that's another flaw for most companies to think of. I have cyber insurance. I'm covered. Now, my guess is most cyber insurance policies will not pay for £5 billion worth of ransomware. Now, arguably, if you have an insurance company, you may be able to negotiate down. The insurance company may have a negotiation team that'll negotiate down the price, but hard to say.
Again, that's one of those misconceptions, isn't it? By companies, when they get cyber insurance, they think, well, if something goes wrong, then I'm covered by cyber insurance. And that's not always the case, because you have to look at the T's and C's within the cyber insurance. And I don't know if it's ignorance, arrogance, or just plain dumb. I don't know what it is. But a lot of companies will ignore the T's and C's and just go, well, we've got the document, so if something goes wrong, it's fine. Where in actual fact, there's stipulations that they're asking you must have in place. If you don't have them, we're not paying out.
And here's the other thing missed, right? This was a password that allowed the bad guys in. So what's the one likely compliance standard they were not following, if you had to guess?
The drama is building as I think. Don't know, Dan. Tell me, what do you
Come
think
on,
it
it's
is?
3 letters. M, F, and A.
Multi-factor authentication.
Right. They clearly didn't have that turned on.
No. Again, you go into this a little bit deeper, right? So one of the things that we do to help companies, pitch slap, first one. We should get like a little square in the corner that says how many pitch slaps Michael give out, and it's like one already.
Yeah. Okay.
But one of the things that we do to help companies is we do the OSINT and dark web reports. So the hacking group, which we don't know because we're not part of the hacking group, could have done a dark web exposure report and seen that the employees, there we go, pitch slaps one. The employees' passwords have been leaked on the dark web, and if they're not using multi-factor authentication and are using the same password for every account, then it's such an easy access, isn't it? It's 2 steps that are so simple to change, and you can save a company by doing them. Don't use the same password and multi-factor authentication. And in the cybersecurity world, it sounds boring when people say it because we say it all the time, but they're the most simple steps that you can implement.
Right. I mean, but again, they said they were complying with standards. What standards? Most standards, that's one of the compliance requirements, is you will use multi-factor authentication across your entire platform. Clearly they weren't. Now, it's a 158-year-old company, had 700 employees, so it was fairly medium-sized. Would you call that medium-sized or large side? I'd say that's in the medium to medium-large-ish, because that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Most of them probably not working on the network all the time, because it was a delivery company. They had 500 lorries or trucks. A lot of people were out there delivering stuff. But still, you had automation and things like that put in place that those things run through your network. So you have to protect it so the bad guys can't get in it. And then exactly what happened. Locked up the system because they encrypted the entire network. And you can't do anything. You can't move your products. M&S had the same issue. Now M&S is a little different. It's not exactly a logistics company, but they had a logistics issue with them being hacked as well. So I guess now the question comes, so what? So what do we learn from this? What should, if you're a logistics company in the UK or anywhere, if you're a logistics company anywhere in the world, what should you concern yourself with? I mean, you mentioned earlier when we were talking beforehand that you wrote a newsletter about this, about nation state actors targeting, and these were criminals, like these are cyber criminals that hit this particular company, but that's one threat you have to worry about. But you also have to worry about nation state guys. So lead us a little bit through that.
Yeah, so you got nation state actors, which is countries who have a fantastic red team and they're fully funded, they've got the best tools, and they're great at what they do. So they target logistics companies, supply chain. They also target other industries as well, like healthcare, critical infrastructure, and energy. But you've got specific nation-state actors who will target logistics companies. They've got a history of it. They've even got their doctrine and their TTPs on how they're going to do it, what they're used to doing. Then you've also got nation-state sponsored groups. So these are groups that are detached from nations, but they are funded by nation states. So, for example, you have a group in Russia who have no allegiance to Russia or the intelligence agencies or the government, but they're funded by Russia, and they also target logistics companies so that if the UK fires back and says, this was Russia, the government can go, no, it wasn't. That wasn't us. It was this hacking group. But then they're also protected by the Russian government. Like the UK and the US can't storm in and, arrest people. And then you've got the other group who's the 20-year-old hackers, the stereotypical ones in the mum's basement, hacking into systems. I mean, if you look at the M&S one, there was 4 individuals and they were all aged between the age of 17 and 20. Now, they went on the dark web to get those tools to hack M&S. Now, we know from our background that nation states sell these tools on the dark web for hackers to buy. They don't need to be a phenomenal hacker. The tools does a lot of the heavy lifting, and then they're able to hack into UK companies. So really, when you look at the supply chain of the groups that do it, it always comes up to nation state. They're the main threat, and they just create subgroups who do the most of the damage.
And if you're wondering, here is where you can learn more of this information at the Kingsman Intel on LinkedIn. Find Mike's LinkedIn account, and then here are the specific different Intel pieces of information that talk about different cyber actors. Which one is the logistics one?
Wizard Spider's definitely one.
Wizard Spider. Okay. So if you bring this up, you can see this down here. If you bring this up, then you get information on who they are, locations, what they were formerly known as, TrickBot, Conti. And that's the key. Like, a lot of these groups have a name today that they didn't have a year ago because they reformed, changed, because a lot of people will say, well, that, Lockbit's been taken off the board. They've been dismantled by law enforcement. No, part of their infrastructure may have been, but the individuals went and formed some other group, right? That's another Russian group. So here's TTPs, talk about what they do, how they do it. Do you have on here like who they target? Oh yeah, there you go. Who they target. Hospitals and healthcare, educational, municipal, there you go, manufacturing and logistics right there. And so on and so forth. So again, more information here on Mike's LinkedIn if you want to go there and read that stuff. One of the things we're thinking of putting together a logistics specific newsletter, but that's still in the works. So don't go looking for that anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, we've not even talked about the Chinese adversaries as well. I mean, China's not innocent in this situation. They're just as bad as Russia. Arguably, I would say China are worse than Russia. They've definitely got a better capability than what Russia's got.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're worse because we talk here about this example is cyber attack, what results in the company going out of business. There was an example I worked on in my career where there was a group that made a company that made copper fitting. They were very well placed. They had 500 employees, similar to this. They were asked by a Chinese group if they could come find out what it was that they did. And so this, not knowing any better, the company said, "Sure, come on over." China sent a delegation over, got all sorts of information about how the company did what they did. Likely did some cyber intrusions as well that may not have been seen. Stole a bunch of information. Went to the southern half of the state where this company was, opened up a new copper manufacturing company and underbid the original one and put them basically out of business. So in addition to cyber attacks, you have to worry about physical attacks where they actually come to you and try to steal your stuff. There's actually a video that the FBI put together years ago called The Company Man, which you can find on YouTube, that gives a real life example of where this occurred to a company that made insulation in the Midwest. And so, yeah, what about any examples of that in the UK?
The physical ones.
Either or.
The physical. See, I need to tread very carefully, Darren, because I don't fancy 7 years in jail.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Well, I mean, any publicly available ones. You don't have to talk about specific ones you worked on, but any publicly available ones. How about that?
You've put me on the spot, Dan. You should ask me before we come on the podcast. I could have went, boom, here's my answer, but you've just put me completely on the spot. I can't think of one off the top of my head. There's nothing springing to me at the moment.
All right. Well, we'll come back and hit that up another time. So I'm trying to see. So I got the Company Man website up here, but actually let me do this. So if you go to YouTube, there it is. Company Man, Protecting America's Secrets. So that is the video you can see linked on YouTube that talks about how China tried to infiltrate a company in the U.S., but ultimately didn't exactly. Had to do with because of there was a fire in an apartment building in China. A bunch of people died, and so the Chinese government said anybody who can create an insulation company that matches the insulation capabilities of this company, this equivalent company in the U.S., they'll give them a huge contract. So that's kind of what started it.
I mean, we did have a situation a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And I don't know how much you want to talk about that, because that was a real life scenario we had in the UK, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's go into, again, we're still on the so what, right? Why should you care? What do you got to worry about? So part of what you and I talk about all the time is companies need to understand who's targeting them and how bad it is. And one of the things that we offer is a dark web exposure report. We'll take your domain and we'll go on and say, okay, how much of your information is compromised and being easily traded in the open parts of the dark web, this is not even the closed parts, because you got to understand the dark web has two components. The open part, which anybody listening can go download the Tor browser and go on to the dark web and start skirting around if you can figure out how to find URLs that'll work. But bad guys maintain private sites that you can't go to, and that publicly available dark web scrapers that charge companies to look for their information on the dark web can't see. We can't even see into that. But all that to be said, we went to a company to talk to them, and we showed them, here's how vulnerable your company is, because we found all of this information with the tool we have, where their information is available on the dark web and likely being traded. And what and then you provided an additional piece of information to them, which was?
Yes. Yeah, so when we did a sort of full diagnosis on their company, they were getting supplies from China. So the Cybersecurity Resilience Bill was coming out to protect certain industries because they are under threat from these nation-state actors that we're talking about, your Russia, your China. So they're getting physical items from China. Now, because they're going through a Chinese company, the Chinese company will be using a data center to hold their data in. Now, Chinese data centers are owned by Chinese government. So effectively, the Chinese government has ownership of the data that the company in the UK is given to the Chinese company, who's the middleman. So therefore, there's a clear supply run there where the Chinese government can look at UK companies that are trading in China and use them as the collateral damage to get to the big companies. Because this is like one of these things that we talk about, right? And it's important to discuss right now. When people put their shields up and say, why would somebody attack me? Like, I'm too small, like, I've got nothing like to offer. The reality is, in some cases, you're not the special one. You're not the chosen one. You're not like the main target. You are just the collateral damage to get to somebody else. They don't care that you're building a company to pay your mortgage and give your children a great university scholarship. They don't care. You're just collateral damage to get to the big company. And that's what we discovered when we spoke to this company a couple of weeks ago.
Right. And they were satisfied with the procedures they had in place to protect themselves. And that was the end of it, which is, it's fine. They were a smaller company. And again, we at least made them aware so they can at least start thinking about doing something, ideally.
I'd like to hope so, because certainly what we seen in just the surface was a high risk profile.
Right. I mean, one of the things we offer is this dark web exposure report. I mean, I'm going to say anybody listening to this podcast who's in logistics who wants a quick and down and dirty look, if you reach out to us, we'll do it for you at no cost and just say, here's kind of what we see. Doing a 5-minute check. Here's kind of, what we see from your company's exposure perspective. So we'll make that offer here to anybody listening who's in logistics. Shoot, if you're not in logistics, any company benefits from this. So if you would like that, feel free to give us a call. Let me change this now to a 2.
And we said we weren't going to do it, and here we are.
That is now a 2. So there is that. All right. Okay, so again, we're trying to keep this to 30, 40 minutes tops. We don't want to spend we don't want to, take up all of people's days on this. We want to make it quick and to the point and make interesting points that resonate that people can pull information from. But one of the things I should probably note is a lot of people, if they don't already follow us on LinkedIn, have no idea who we are, right? So we want to give like a 5-minute, how did we get to this point with the experience that we have? I was with the FBI for 20 years. Mike was with the UK intelligence, and he'll talk about what that means without putting himself in jail. So I'll let you start, and then how did you get to, give your origin story in 5 or 6 minutes, and then I'll do mine, and then we'll wrap it up.
You must be getting bored of hearing me talk about this, because you must have heard this story about 40 times quite easily.
That's all right.
You must be want to put like cotton wool in your ears and just go, please stop talking. So, for those who have never met me or have never heard my origin story, I'm trying to be cautious of Darren's here. So he's going to feel like he's getting assaulted here, but never mind. So I had a sort of unique path, a controversial path. So started off in school, got dyslexia, failed school, wasn't great at attention spam. We talk about the attention spam of people in this generation, like 3 seconds. and it's because it's like tech and social media. Mine's was like that like 20 years ago without the tech and social media. Behavioural issues, all the usual stuff that kids have at that age, especially young boys. And I left school, no qualifications. My goal and aspirations was to try and get a job at KFC, and they wouldn't even take me. So I was like, damn, what am I going to do in my life? Also, I had dyslexia as well. I don't know if I mentioned that part. So enrolled into college, thought I'll try and get back in education. Again, wasn't really for me. They were better at accommodating my dyslexia, but it just wasn't great. I wasn't buying into it. Then I had the opportunity to join the military, which I took. And in my career, I ended up joining the UK intelligence community. And it was, as I look back, it was definitely the best decision I ever made for multiple different reasons. Because even before I joined, I feel like if you were to speak to people that knew me 15 years ago, like discipline, timekeeping, all that stuff was absolutely shit. So can we get a counter for a swear word as well? Can we get one of them?
We'll do that next week.
So managed to get myself into that world. So I went from school dropout to in that world. And I you know what? I've spoken it so many times. I don't want to bore people with it, so I'm just going to leave it there. Actually, last part. Well, as part of the UK intelligence community, I started off my career in cybersecurity. I was a SOC analyst, done a little bit of red teaming. Then I started moving about in the different departments and did things like I was an intelligence analyst, data analyst, OSINT analyst, intelligence officer, and I got involved in physical pen testing as well, which was arguably my most favourite job I've ever done in my life. I absolutely love doing physical pen testing. So working on that social engineering side of things. And then I left all that, then went to work in the corporate world, worked for Microsoft and AWS in their data center space. That is my background.
All right, I'm messing with this program we're using, so I screwed this up. So I got like you, and I'm trying to fix it while we're talking, because I don't really need.
I feel like I'm on like LSD at the minute.
Yeah, I don't really. I was trying to see what that would do, and it didn't do what I wanted it to do. That didn't really work out so well. I guess that didn't work out either. All right, I don't know how to change that. That's crazy. Oh, camera. Oh, no.
So, Darren, I've also heard your story about 40 times. So you're going to start with computer 1977.
Nope, not even going to mention. Wasn't going to go back that far. I'm just going to say that I was a high school teacher. After I went to school for pre-med, to college for pre-med. I didn't have dyslexia or any other letter, anything. I was an alphabet soup.
ADHD?
Didn't have that. No, none of that. No, nothing. So just normal high school genius. So went to college for pre-med, and after 2 years, took the MCATs, decided I didn't want to spend 8 more years in college, and so kind of moved my major to biology. I was going to do immunology. Went to a graduate school, didn't like it, dropped out. Tried to do radio, that didn't work. Went back, got my degree in teaching, so I became a high school science teacher. Did that for 7 years, but after about year 6, I looked to the future and said, okay, 30 years from now, I can retire from teaching, and the only thing I'm qualified to do is be a substitute teacher. So that wasn't very enticing. And so I was teaching summer school one year, and I was on a old Apple computer, and this was 1997, and I happened to come across the FBI webpage for some reason, and it said accepting applicants for special agents. I'm like, that sounds interesting. Let me do that. I'd like to do law enforcement. Let me do that. And so I applied, and 13 months later was walking through the FBI Academy doors for new agent class. Got assigned to one of the original cyber squads in Charlotte, North Carolina in 2000. Created one of the first major long-term FBI undercover operations that targeted the where scene, the theft of intellectual property, and the trading of intellectual property, and did that and ended up arresting people in 20 different U.S. states, 7 different countries across the world, got to travel all over the place, went into leadership, had my own squad. And then in 2011, I went back to headquarters to embed cyber skill sets and counterintelligence skill sets into one unit that was embedded in the counterintelligence division. And to understand that, you had the cyber division, which handled cyber things, which really was nothing more than intrusions into computers, is what cyber was defined as. Counterintelligence is targeting nation state actors domestically and try to neutralize what they do. Well, at the time, it was realized, obviously, that 2011, a lot of Chinese, Russian, Iranian actors were using computers to do their intelligence gathering by infiltrating companies here. And we had no way, we weren't really looking at that from a cyber perspective. So I created a unit, me and 5 other guys, to figure out how to make that programmatically work across 56 field offices. And that particular 5-person or 6-person unit ballooned eventually into a whole section through different reorganizations is moved in different places, but kind of built from there. And I ended my career in Birmingham, Alabama, in the Huntsville RA, running a counterintelligence squad that had a huge cyber focus. We did a lot of cyber stuff in the counterintelligence world. Got to do some cool stuff that I can't talk about here, which would be cool to talk about, but I don't want to go to prison either, so I'm not going to talk about any of it here. But
we are far too pretty for prison. That's the problem.
We maybe down the line as we're talking in this section, we talk about stuff we did. Cause like next week, in 2 weeks, I might talk about the undercover and some other stuff, but whatever. So there was that, and went to work for a clear defense contractor, and then met Mike and John and started this company, and here we are trying to figure it all out and creating this podcast to supplement, or not even supplement, to attach to what we do corporately to try to protect companies with our elite 360-degree security offerings. Basically, we take a look at cyber security, physical security, threat intelligence, and incorporate that into a holistic 360-degree look at your company and how to protect it from all of these threats that are coming at you from different ways.
Wow, that deserves a pitch slap counter at the end, because that end bit was definitely a pitch slap. So that's 3.
That's whatever. It's 3. Yeah, who cares?
I'm not letting you away with that one.
It's
I'm not letting you away with that one.
It's only 3. It's only 3. It's all right.
That's actually good, by the way. 3 is actually good.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts as we close out this first initial podcast? This is, if anybody stuck out to the all the way to this 32-minute end, thank you. Congratulations. Thanks for holding us out. We would be interested to hear topics. If you have topics of things you'd like us to talk about, if you are in the cybersecurity or the physical security or the threat intelligence space and would like to come on and talk about what your company does, you're welcome to pitch slap everybody all day long. That you can bring that in as long. We'll talk to you about other stuff, but you can talk about what your company does. If you do tabletop exercise stuff, if you do physical security intrusions, if you've been a victim, want to talk about what that looked like. No topic is really off limits, and so we're happy to do that. If you have thoughts, comments, suggestions, feel free to email me, Darren at thecyberguy.com, because this is also part of the Cyber Guy podcast network. So that's since I produce it, that's what I'm going to call it. You can hit Mike and I up. I actually had the 5 Eyes site up, but forget it, whatever. We'll pitch slap that next week. So we won't show we won't show the LinkedIn site, and the actual website is still being worked on, but it'll be up soon enough. Any final words, Mike?
Nope. I am happy with everything we've spoke about today.
Okay, all right. You can find Mike on LinkedIn at, what is your LinkedIn address? Do you even know? LinkedIn.com/in/Michael W. McQuaid? Or do you even know?
No, it's just Michael McQuaid.
Michael McQuaid.
The W part, only my mum calls me that when I'm in trouble, so...
What's it stand for?
Don't use it. William.
Yeah, that's boring.
So if I'm in trouble when I'm about to get grounded, I'll get full Michael William McQuaid.
Oh, you said Wilma?
Wilma.
Oh, not Wilma. It's Wilma.
Wilma. Like here's one for you, right? You know how we speak about Karens, like stereotypical Karen, and Karen's the name that gets used. If they didn't use Karen, I think Wilma would have been the replacement.
Really? Well,
I think that's a Karen name, Wilma.
You may be the only person who thinks that.
No, let's put it out there. Like if Karens weren't called Karen, what the name would have been? I think it's Wilma.
All right, if you say so.
What would you say? Don't leave on a cliffhanger like that.
I don't know. What's the UK equivalent to Karen? Kate? Probably not Kate. No. Megan?
Wilma.
Okay, fair enough. All right. In UK, it's Wilma. All right, good to know. All right, Mike, thanks so much. For Michael McQuaid, I'm Darren Mott. We will see you next Thursday, in a live version of the the Kingsman and the Cyber Guy podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again soon.